Just watching the invention of lying, and I guess I love this film. But while watching it, I had a bit of an epiphany. Excuse me, I'm going through the one of the most difficult conflicts here. Just this whole thing is what I think happened here is I was coming across my ability to explain what happened, and in doing so, there were attempts to cut me off at that before that point to keep a lot of obvious things from being said. But here I have a memory and history of talking about the generational structures and how they manifest in society over time. And I wanna discuss this to draw everything together. So at the bottom of the structure we have children, right? And children are hosted by binary relationships, which are brought together to become family structures. And those family structures combine to become city and neighborhood structures. And those city and neighborhood structures combine to become your states, countries, and then I need to draw another layer for international, but I put international in here as well. And so, what's occurring is as we grow upward, we attempt to manage downward so that we can control the upward flow. And so what we see here is we grow up and then we manage down. We're up here, and because they're up here at the edge of whatever this is, they're managing what happens in a downward direction. And you would think that up here can't truly be deciding what's happening down here, but understand that up here ultimately is what hosts what goes on at these bottom levels. So we can say that at some point we just occurred, right? And although we all start off as children, and some of us may not have, I'm on some deep religions right now. So they grow up and then they start to organize themselves and realize, hold on, let me try and get some focus on this. And they start organizing downward to try and keep up the patterns that they're like, hey, this structure works. This structure keeps all this shit together. And so what happens is the children at their level are within the hosted vacuums. I didn't mean to say vacuum, but within the host of the parents and the families are moved around early on in their lives. And in these moving arounds and interact and being brought to one another, let's say school, I forgot to mention school here, but school is like a good place for the kids to get together. And so what the kids do is they develop these little connections, these relationships, these established agreements, if you will, and these agreements are what will travel up the structure to become what is happening on the official standard of social connection. And so, as the children make their deals, as the children develop their relationships, and those relationships are what become the binary partnerships that then become that are connected to the already established families that are already connected to the cities and all that other stuff, and goes upward. Just know that as you go upward, the more concise and tight knit, your organization needs to be, because of how much is being collected here. In this is contained all of this. It's not just this, and that. It's this has no. Okay, it is kind of this, and this, but this right here is containing all of these layers of social structure. And so because it is so compact, because it is so much going on, it requires a higher, more detailed level of planning and tight-knit organization. And so because of how tense it is up there, it actually has a greater influence as it goes downward. If something is of great frustration down here, if something is of great frustration up here, it'll affect and travel down the social lines to move the hosting of the children to create better positions and deals and futures to help manage the problems being noticed at these tight-knit areas. And the way this happens, you would notice that human beings, as they discuss things with one another, they're not always talking about, I think this is how we should manage our neighborhood this week. I think this is how we should manage the family going on. But rather, they're always in the state of figuring out what to do. If you notice what people are always talking about, it's always figuring out what's happening, figuring out what to do, or that's it. That's really it. Figuring out what's happening, figuring out what to do. That's it. I mean, like I'm thinking of an example that would break that. That's that when people talk, those are the only two things they're doing. They're figuring out what's happening or they're figuring out what to do. And so, in those connections, they have these little minute microtransactions, and those microtransactions combine, even if they're not said, through physiological communication to create structures and deals and connections for the moment. And it's this that is being passed along and traveled up and down the structure as we go on. And so, to bring my point back, and I hate always bringing religion into this. I fucking hate that so much. But I'm a young kid, right? I'm a young kid, and I'm very intelligent. I'm making straight A's. Now, obviously, I've got other children. They're saying they're not jealous. They are fucking jealous. That's what that was. You guys were jealous. Just fucking admit that shit. Jeez, I hate that so much. So they're jealous, and they already have a disdain towards me because when it comes to getting approval from our parents, I'm usually the one that's talked very highly of, talked well about. I get all A's. I always listen. I do the right thing. And so the parents favor me more at this point, which creates a bunch of deals with the other kids to already push me out and decide and vote for me to have traits and trajectories that make them feel better or that create a safe security that I cannot walk all over them in the future. Now, combine that with me being intelligent and also questioning religion. And I wasn't just asking basic questions. I was legitimately having real debates with grown people about religious problems that went over the heads of some of our political leaders, of literal fucking people in parliament, of questions and answering and solving problems that contradicted what people at high levels didn't understand. And they did not need to talk to me because, like I said, we grow upwards, which means the information, all of our interactions are still being passed along the social structure only for it to be managed downwards to correct what's causing any problems. And this is a natural thing. It's a bit like water, right? You push water this way, it comes back. Or you push water against the border, right? And then it comes back. It's pretty much what's happening the entire time. Just communication up and down a social connection. So I'm like, hey, God came from nowhere. That's what you guys are saying. And this fucking blows a huge hole in the whole structure because this structure believes in religion. And it's like, just do what we say. These systems work. This one's causing a fucking problem. Why is he like this? Why can't he just be normal? Combine that with jealousy and other structures that wanted to vote me to be someone that could not survive, someone that could not have say above them. And add that to my instigating and irritating conflicts of religious, which is really what's happening up here. These guys are just talking about what life is. They're literally like, no, this is life. No, this is life. No, this is life. That's what's happening up at these levels. And so I'm frustrating with my intelligence at such a great level, shit this high up. I hate to say it like that. And so there's a tightening, an attempt to create order up here. And in that attempt to create order, there's a tightening here, which causes a tightening here, which causes a redistribution of hosting conditions for the children to make their deals in to grow upwards into the social organization. And so what happened is that everyone at some point decided at a moment that I was too disturbing to the social structure and took a turn to create a value, a trait that could shut me up and get rid of me if necessary. Now, as I've said, this may not have been personally discussed. It was personally discussed. I've come across like the logs. Like I'm coming across like the social logs. My name has been said by fucking powerful people. So in all this, I know for a fact that it wasn't my fault. I know for a fact that you guys know what's going on here. And I ended up solving all of my religious problems. I just want to say this. I figured out what the control complex was. I figured out concept. I figured out Nasum. And all this is like really valid stuff, and it's helping me. It's doing a really good job. And I also figured out that the difference between a control complex and a God complex. And the God complex is what the control complex is trying to achieve, but due to the limitations of, wait, but what if they have it and I don't? That win-lose thinking causes this physiological condition of restraint that prevents the real desire that we all have from being able to connect in our minds to appear without us needing some physiological explanation for what's happening. And that's what's going to happen. Once you guys get on this Nostrum program that I've developed, this new religion I've made, whatever you want to call it, you all are, as individuals, going to create tangible and logical connections that allow for you to process new things happening without them physiologically making sense to what was agreed to be before. And that's how we got to the point of like all that stuff that I can't say right now. But yeah, that's what happened here. The whole structure saw me as an irritation and made a move to get rid of me. Because I was causing so much chaos to like structures that justified up here. We believe in God and we follow God and God does this and God does that. And I'm like, bro, who's God? Like, who's God? Who's God? And you're like, what the fuck is that? Who is this? And I'm just like, they're like, bro, shut the fuck up and just fucking go with the program. But I'm not like an annoying person that's like, you know what? Technically, God is this and God is that. Or how did Noah build the ark? How did Noah build the ark, huh? I'm not one of those guys. I was kind of one of those guys that was like, look, I'm just saying, you're saying that God explains where we come from, right? But you can't explain where God comes from. And so we come from somewhere that we don't know where it comes from. So we still don't know where we come from. And I was doing shit like that. And that shit was just completely violating the structure. And so the structure violated me. The structure raped me. The structure molested me. It ruined my life. No, I'm just kidding. I've already accepted how shit this is. So I mean that's all that's going on here. So, see what you guys do there.